Psalm 30 verse 5 says, "Weeping may remain for a night, but rejoicing comes in the morning." You might be in a place in life where weeping is very real, where it might seem to define your entire existence. You hardly remember a time when you weren't feeling sad about something. And if that's not your reality now, you know that it doesn't take a whole lot in order to get there. And in a world as filled with pain and sorrow and suffering, in a world where everyone dies, we're never really far from weeping in some kind of way. And so I want to show you something. This is a stir stick that I grabbed from a local coffee establishment to stir my coffee with. I drew something on this particular stir stick. You can see on the end there, it just has just a little line right there, dividing the stir stick into two very unequal parts. There's this little part, and then there's this great big part, which is much bigger. Which is the more dominant part? It's the bigger one, isn't it? I'm showing you this stick and the line that I drew on it to represent something. This represents your existence from beginning to end. Here's the beginning. Your life began. God gave you life. You started experiencing life and everything that comes along with it, and then your life went on, and it went on, and it's still going on. And you have ups and you have downs, you have highs, you have lows, you have joy, you have sorrows. All the things that happen during our earthly life are represented by this stick from this end all the way up to the little line. That's your earthly life. And then after your earthly life, based on what God promises us, comes your eternal life. And your eternal life is much longer lasting than your earthly life. In fact, if I were to have a coffee stir stick that were to adequately represent the length of our eternal life, of course, this stick wouldn't end. It would just keep going on and on and on. And so which part of your life will be the more dominant part of your existence? It won't be the sorrow that we so easily feel now. It will be the eternity of perfection that Jesus won for you on the cross. That's coming. When the psalmist says that weeping may remain for a night, in contrast to the rejoicing that comes in the morning and then keeps going throughout the day, it's a very short time, which means you're never really far from joy. That's what God is saying. You're never really far from joy. Certainly in the big picture of things, when we look at our big eternal existence from God's perspective, what we suffer and go through and cry through as we go through life on earth, it is such a short thing compared to the great, perfect joys of eternity with Jesus that we know are coming. We know they're coming because Jesus is the one who made sure that it was a guarantee and not just a wishy-washy hope, but a certainty. It was his blood that was shed. It was his sacrifice that was accepted. It was his life that was perfect. All of that relied on him so that you could rest in the certainty that your perfection in eternity, that your reunion with the people that you love, it is certainly coming. And sometimes it comes even before then. Just think of the day Jesus was dying. Think of the people who loved him, who were there. There was a lot of weeping. And it lasted for more than an evening. It lasted for an entire weekend until Sunday morning came. And the tomb in which he had been buried wasn't holding anyone. And that night when the man who had been in that tomb, dead, stood in front of his disciples, fully alive, their weeping had suddenly disappeared. It was there for a night, or two, or three. But then they were living with the reality of a God who's more powerful than death, whose love is so determined to love us that he will give everything in his existence to make it happen. They were living with the reality of that God now living with them, the same God who lives with you. For now, that reality, it doesn't change so many of the reasons we have to feel sorrow, but it does give you a reason to rejoice. You are never alone in your sorrow. And the one who is walking with you not only knows how it feels to have that sorrow himself, and so he can empathize with you. He knows. He's also shown that he alone can overcome it and make it disappear from your existence. And one day, my friends, he will. Weeping may remain for a night, God knows that. But rejoicing, your reason for joy is, your joy is coming. You're never far from joy. Not when Jesus is with you. Rest well tonight, my friends.